Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for joining us today for the webinar titled How SME Works, to be introduced by Hassan Amani. Hassan, please proceed.
Hello, everyone. This is Hassan Amini from Young Leader. I wanted to also thank you all for joining this call today, and also thank SME, especially Jackie and Raven, and that help us to organize this call. The topic of our mentoring meeting session today is on how SME works. I believe that was a couple of weeks ago that Barbara Arnold had a call mentoring meeting session with the same topic, and Joe Driscoll today is going to have the second part of our mentoring meeting session. Joe Driscoll is a mining engineer with 32 years experience and is a graduate of Montana Tech. Joe has been an SME member since his days at Montana Tech and has worked his ways up through SME, holding roles of Montana Section Chair, Young Leader, Chair of M&E Division, Board of Directors role twice, a Strategy Committee member, and now SME Foundation Board Member. Joe has worked most of his career as an underground guy, having spent most of his career in Nevada at all of the major mines on the Carlin Trend, and is now a senior partner mining consultant for environmental resources management and lives in Denver with his family. With that, Joe, the mic is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Hassan, and welcome everybody. Appreciate you all taking your time out today to listen to Joe. The title of this talk is How SME Works, with a bunch of dots, and this is from my perspective. This is how it works for Joe Driscoll. And kind of, I want to walk you through where I've been with SME and what I currently do. So first of all, I'd like to start off with two safety shares. Recently, I was out in Nevada meeting with one of my clients at a site just up above the Rye Patch Reservoir, which is outside of Winnemucca, and I ran into a Great Basin Sidewinder rattlesnake wrapped around a bush, and I was expecting to see that. So I guess the point being is if you envision something, there's a good chance you might have that occur. But the question for me was, if I were ever bitten by the thing, what would I do? I was still 45 minutes away from Winnemucca, and I was by myself. So I guess the next question for me would be, maybe I need to be better prepared if I'm going to be out, kicking around the rocks there, possibly wear gaiters around my legs, that sort of thing. So at any rate, just wanted to point that out. If you envision something, that there's a good chance it could happen. And then on the right, there's a picture of a gentleman that lost his eye. I don't know who this guy is, but I did have a friend that lost his eye on Christmas, actually the 29th of December this year. He was taking his Christmas decorations down, and he had some of his decorations tied up with mechanics wire, which is a small gauge wire. And he cut the dang wire with his lineman's pliers, and the wire sprung straight out and hit him directly in the eye. Definitely wasn't expecting that. I mean, you would never dream of having your eye taken out from removing decorations. So today he now has a glass eye. It's not a good situation, but it's definitely raised my awareness to wear the dang safety glasses, and now I'm wearing them when I even cut the lawn. That might be a little bit over the top, but nevertheless, I'm making sure I'm safe for myself. Can everybody hear me okay? Let's send a sound bite up. Hassan, can you hear me?
Sounds great.
Okay, good enough. Okay, so I was asked to give a discussion of maybe where I've been and where I plan on going with SME. And I'm very graphical. I like things in boxes, or I like things in buckets. So I opted for the box option today since buckets are harder to show. But I've been in SME since I was in college. I went to Montana Tech from 1981 to 87. I was one of those 6-year guys, but we made it through. And SME for me at the time was, during school, was going to Brews Billiards maybe once a quarter with all of the mining engineers and geologists, and we played pool and drank beer and had a lot of good fun. And that was hosted by Pete Knutson and Tom Finch and Carl Berger, Irv Studebaker. Those were my professors at the time. So I was involved with SME from at least going out every quarter. Finally, I was able to, let's start in the upper left-hand box there. I was able to work in my hometown of Butte, Montana at a company called New Butte Mining. And believe it or not, I'm the last underground miner to work in Butte. I was brought into SME to help with the local section there. And I helped co-chair the presidency there. And most of that was pretty much catering to the old Anaconda Copper Mining Company retirees. We would bring in guest speakers. It was a really good thing. But at the end of the day, we ended up shutting the mine down, and a good friend of mine that was also on the board, the local session board, he was the mine manager at Montana Resources. He was able to get me a job in Nevada. And that's where it all started for me with my career as well as SME. I moved to Nevada and worked there for nearly 23 years at pretty much every mine in Nevada. So next box to the right, my first next big opportunity at SME was I was asked by Tim Arnold if I would give a presentation on the Carlin East mine at Newmont, along with, a lot of Barrick talks. I think there were talks from Anglo Gold, but Tim wanted a really good session, so I stepped in and gave a great presentation. This is of the olden days with the slide projectors and, next slide, next slide, next slide type of a discussion. But at the end of the day, I ended up getting a feature article on our mine at Newmont, as well as the front cover of SME. And I was just dang tickled about that. That was a really good thing for me. And it was good for Tim too, because he got kudos out of it. So then he appointed me to be the secretary of the M&E Division, which I didn't even know what the hell that was. And to further that discussion, the next year I was on the M&E Division as secretary, and I missed the very first meeting because I didn't have email. Well, I'm a mining guy, and you don't check your email. But anyhow, got a call from Tim at about 9 in the morning, and he said, "Where are you?" And I said, "I'm sleeping. Where are you?" And he said, "We're at the meeting. We're waiting on you." I said, "What meeting?" He said, "The M&E Division meeting." I said, "What the heck is that?" So at any rate, I started off on the wrong foot, ran down to the meeting with my bed head and slippers for all intents and purposes, and that was my first shot at the M&E Division. But we managed to work our way up the ladder. So then the next year, I put my name in the hat to be a young leader. I graduated with 6 other people, of which I'm very close friends with 3 of them, Amy Jacobson, Courtney Young, and Ann Williamson. Jim Watson was another guy, but he didn't go through SME after that. And then Bob Pruitt was a really good friend of mine, and he passed away last year, unfortunately. I don't know how or why, but anyhow, everybody on the young leaders that I graduated with, we all pretty well flourished at SME. We've done well through our different divisions, whether it's MPD, M&E, environmental, that sort of thing. So, but at any rate, we coined the phrase "beer is good." We kind of laugh because every year when we go to SME, we usually pony up at the bar on that Friday and have a good beer and a good laugh. Next box to the right, I managed to wiggle my way into given to be the session chair for 6 different sessions since I was in SME, and that was fun and great programming there. And then the last box on the top, Operators Forum. I got roped into helping out on that, and I ended up being the MC of 8 of those Operators Forums over the course of, the many years. And we had some really fun times. We had Hollywood Squares, we had Jeopardy, we even had funny mining stories. I actually let Tim Arnold give his Bird Buddy speech to about 500 people, and we had a lot of beer and laughed our butts off. But we used to actually bring in the Operators Forum with bagpipes. I would get Diane Anderson to kind of parade in with the pipes, and all the kids were behind her, the students were behind her coming in and getting their beers. But at any rate, the Operators Forum, when I was looking after it, was a pretty good deal. And it even evolved into Barrick bringing in John Elway to have a discussion with their team. So there's a huge opportunity for someone to pick up the torch there. It's kind of gone kind of quiet since I haven't done it. Next one there going down is Michael Rayburn, a good friend of mine that I met years ago. He's a guitar virtuoso. We brought him in twice, and I ask you guys to go ahead and YouTube the guy. Amazing guitarist, but he's hilarious as all heck. But take a look at him, and he's got some good messages for people. Next box down is the board of directors. I managed to sneak in there early on as a board of director. That's when they had 34 people as board of directors. Almost looked like the United Nations, for crying out loud. And my title was standby alternate director. Oh boy, that was quite the title. But at any rate, loved it, learned a little bit there. And then finally, I was able to be part of the board of directors in the 2014 era. Next box down is called MEAN-C, and that's an acronym that the mining and exploration team came up with, the awards nominating committee. Quite like the name, but I've been doing that for 10 years. And what the essence of that is nominating and electing people that need to be recognized in the M&E Division. And every year I usually push at least three people through to get a deserved award. Bottom corner, mid-year meetings. I've attended 18 mid-year meetings. That's the funnest part of SME, in my opinion, because each year each president gets to pick where their mid-year meeting is going to be. So, for example, we had one year we were in New Orleans and really had a great time down there. We had one in Pittsburgh. We had 2 in Pittsburgh, and I managed to convince some of my vendors to help sponsor 20 tickets to the Notre Dame Pitt game. So that was a blast. Nashville, Tennessee, we had a blast down there. Went to the Grand Ole Opry. Tucson, we went down to watch Caterpillar test site at Tanaha Hills. Went to Monterey, California, and played golf out at Pebble, believe it or not. And then Manzanti had one back in my hometown of Butte, which is John's hometown as well. John and I pretty much known each other since we were kids, grew up in pretty much the same neighborhood. And then Lake Tahoe was another great venue. But what's nice about these mid-year meetings is we've always got tours associated with it. So we had one year in Philadelphia where we drove up to New York City and toured the tunnel boring machine underneath Avenue Number 2 up in Manhattan. And I had the opportunity to come out from underground and walk the entire island in my work clothes, and I felt like a good New York working guy. So at any rate, that's one example of why I like the mid-year meetings. There's an opportunity to have some fun. Recently on the SME Foundation, I'm new to that, but I'm out trying to help raise money from some of these big mining companies and vendors to help sponsor the foundation, and I'm really enjoying that. Next to that is the strategic committees. I served on the products and service as well as the structure and governance, and recently rolled off. Next box over, scholarships. I've had a chance to review that for 4 years. That's kind of the essence, in my opinion, of SME, is making sure the kids coming into the organization are given opportunities, and we provide those scholarships through the M&E Division luncheon. That's a big thing. In the corner, mentored for 15 years. Literally mentored hundreds of people, and that's very important that we do that. I'm actually very good friends with a lot of these kids. I've hired a lot. Some of these kids have gone on to be general managers at some of the big companies as well. So actually used to, we would go and have, dinner and beers down at the Rock Bottom Brewery. I remember kicking in $1,500 for one gig 1 year. It took me about a year to cycle through the expenses through Dumont there, but they were gracious and they paid it. Annual meetings, haven't missed one since I've really joined SME back in the 90s. Wouldn't miss it for the world. And then finally, I was the M&E chair in 2007, and kind of the big bang thing that came out of that for me was we were able to simplify the M&E division to make it understandable. We come up with a bucket concept where you could pretty much have any type of a program you wanted. If you wanted to talk about rattlesnakes for 25 sessions, you could do that under this new concept. But we really simplified it, and it's really gone very well. And then up in the next corner there, Charlie Plum. I did bring in Charlie Plum. I don't know if you guys were around to see that, but he was one of the 501 POWs that come out of Vietnam. He lived there for 2,108 days, and his story on how do you survive something like that was just amazing. Matter of fact, I was just watching on Netflix Saturday night and saw Charlie Plum speaking on the 1970s program that they had. It was pretty interesting. So I've introduced Charlie to thousands of miners, and he's made a difference at a lot of mining companies. So that's kind of my roadmap so far at SME. And I still go around the checkered board there and work on a number of things there. But all in all, everything about SME, as far as I'm concerned, is for that center box, which is for the kids going through school, getting their mining degree, getting their metallurgy degree, getting their geology degree, getting their safety degree, getting their environmental degree. We need to be putting programming together that's going to help those guys take this to the next level. SME's the best technical society that we have, and that's what I really enjoy about it too, is I get a chance to go to the annual meeting and go to the presentation and see what's new and what's innovative, and it's just a great thing. So that's my roadmap. And now I just want to kind of preach to you guys on maybe what I would do if I were you, if you want to proceed ahead with SME and plug in. I know that a lot of you guys are all part of the Young Leaders Committee, but now it's time to branch out and do some other things, and there are things to do. So as a new young leader, here's what I would do. The mentoring program. I really do believe that's a big thing that you guys have the opportunity to do, is get these students and mentor them and be their sounding board. When I worked up at Newmont, I hired 8 of those guys in one shot. I had 8 guys working for me up at Leeville, and I'll tell you, that's the best thing that's ever happened to me and them. I mean, give them a chance to work, and then they re-enrolled at SME as well. But be part of the mentoring program. I would jump right into that. Next bullet there is plug in wherever you can at SME, and you just need to be patient. But what's worked for me is you do a good job and you move up. That's kind of how things work. Is if you're a standout on whatever task is given to you, it seems like you get noticed and then you get plugged in to do something for SME. And I'm still, jumping in and re-enrolling into the small things, but they're important things to me. Another important thing is to keep networking with the other young leaders and everyone else at SME, as you currently do. When you get to the annual meeting, there's just a huge opportunity to meet a lot of people and just reconnect with a lot of your friends. I mean, I've got so many friends at SME. I really look forward to going to SME. We have a blast. I mean, it's just a great, great week. And then the thing that I liked about the Young Leaders Networking Social, I think that's a good thing, and I think that should be your main thing. This is my opinion only. When you guys go to the annual meeting every year, make that networking social a big bang. It's a really good thing, and I really enjoyed that a lot. Next bullet, I don't know if you like this recommendation at all, but I'm just going to share it with you. I would recommend that you not have your big get together on Sunday because I think there's an opportunity for all you guys to plug in at everything else at SME. I think it's a good chance for everybody to go to these division meetings. I think it's a good opportunity to go sit and listen to the board of directors meeting and find out how this SME machine works and how much money we're bringing in and what the plans are. Yeah, your meeting is it needs to be rescheduled. That's just my opinion. Maybe you can do it on a different time, but I think where it's at on Sunday is kind of a hard time. That's just my thoughts. You can plug in for sure at SME, jumping in on these technical sessions. They're always looking for great talks, looking for technical leaders, session chairs. And then in the M&E division, we have what we call program area managers, which looks after one of the 4 buckets. And that's the big key thing. So there's just a number of things you can plug in through the technical sessions. And then, as I mentioned before, I think it would be good idea if you guys go in and take a look at what the board of director meeting looks like, because that's where you find out about how SME, how the business at SME really works. My thoughts are, just be yourself, and if you want to get to the annual meeting, you typically have to participate. So you need to ask yourself the question, how can you participate? And I think I've given you guys some ideas on how you can participate, all the way from mentoring to session sharing to just giving presentations, and that's the sort of thing. So that's kind of what I wanted to talk to you guys about. I don't know if you're expecting a full hour, but I think I gave you the essence of how SME has worked for Joe Driscoll. So at this point, I'll take any questions that you have.
I'd like to open up the question and answer period by opening the chat panel. If attendees would like to type in their questions in the chat panel, I'll read them aloud to Joe. You may have to go to the little gear to open up your chat panel. Again, if you have any questions, please send them through the chat panel. Joe, thank you so much for joining us today. Your dedication to SME is very commendable. Our first question is, do you know how a new committee can get started at SME?
Yes, typically, it all depends on what the committee is. But say, for example, if it's related to the Mining and Exploration Division, it would typically be vetted through their Mining and Exploration XCOM. and discuss. So it's typically a proposal. If there's a proposal to start a new committee for any reason, you need to find out where it best is sorted out. So that's how I would do it. Come up with a proposal and run it through the right division.
Thank you. The next question is, for some of the young leaders who may not be as familiar with the broader workings of SME, can you touch on the time commitment for some of the roles you discussed?
Yes, that's a really good question. So in 1995 or 96, I plugged in to the M&E Division as secretary. I didn't become the M&E Division chair till 2007. So that commitment was just over 10 years. It took me 10 years to get through the different ranks going up through the to get to the session chair. So 10 years. But to put it in perspective, there's probably maybe 30 hours between each year to work on these things. So it's not too overwhelming.
Thank you. The next question. It seems like SME is really geared around the student experience. I've been out of school for a few years and have not been involved. Have I missed the boat?
I don't think you've missed the boat. I believe, my discussion is hopefully empowering you to jump back in. So it's all about stepping in and networking and finding out where you can plug in. So it's not necessarily them reaching out, it's you reaching in. All the things that I did at SME, that was not someone telling me what to do. That was me taking the bull by the horn and saying, hey, you want me to bring in the virtuoso guitar player guy and we'll have a ball. That's the kind of stuff that I'm trying to get into your guys' heads to step it up and take some initiative. But you didn't miss the boat, no. But it takes drive from everybody to jump in where they can help.
Thank you. The next question you may not be able to answer. The attendee wants to know, do you have rules in SME for the succession of local sections?
There are roles. I'll be honest with you. I can't really speak, very good about this here. You might, we can reach out to, like, say, John Manzanti and Tim Arnold. Those guys would better have those answers. That was kind of their initiative to talk about the path forward for the local sections. But I don't have that answer for you.
Good. Not good. I will contact this attendee and send him that information.
Okay. And then one more thing I wanted to share with anybody. My email is joe.driscoll@erm.com, and you can actually connect up with me and ask me anything offline if you feel like doing that. And I'd love to point you in the right direction. So I just want to throw that out too.
Thank you, Joe. That seems to be the last of our questions. Would you have any final comments for our attendees?
Well, I really like what I'm seeing with the young leader. I presume we mostly have young leaders on this call. I don't know. I can't tell who's on the call, but the whole discussion is anybody can plug in at SME wherever they want to plug in. I like it because it's a good opportunity for me to network with my friends. I meet a lot of good people. The technical presentations are amazing. You find out what's going on at every different mine in the world. I'm also now a vendor, so it's pretty important for me to be part of SME because I've got to network and find out what some opportunities are for our company to maybe go out and see if we can get work. But just be yourself. The biggest takeaway I have, if this is mostly the young leaders, is your network on that social event you have. Like that a lot, invigorate it, and just plug in. There's just so much to see, and no one's telling you cannot go to this or that. The M&E Division meeting is on Sundays, Sunday mornings. You ought to go in and sit on that. The board of directors, we all know that's in the afternoon. Please go in and see what the heck's going on. You're going to hear transparently what the whole organization's all about. But I really do enjoy SME, and I want to help the young leaders, and I want to help new people coming in, because I was the same way. When I got out of school, they just shut down the biggest copper mine in Butte, and I was a little bit worried about what my next job was going to be. So I found SME was a good place for me to meet people, which it obviously was, because I was able to get work in Nevada for the next 23 years.
Great. Thank you, Joe, for the excellent advice and for sharing your SME experiences with us. And thank you for all the attendees. This ends today's session, and have a great day.
Thank you, guys. Have a great day.